Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and this is Movie Crap. This is my weekly movie news show where I talk about movie news, trailers, and articles and general entertainment things that I feel like talking about. So here we go. So it was announced this week that there's going to be a theatrical Teen Titans Go movie, and it is going to come out on July 27th, 2018. This is fairly unique for several reasons. One, that Teen Titans Go is awful and will infect all of us and will probably be the downfall of all society, and is probably why Donald Trump won. And also, it's kind of remarkable and certainly unprecedented for a major studio animated film to just be announced and with a date and this close to its release date. There's certain times where you hear about an animated film and that it's in production, and then we eventually get a release date, and sometimes that release date gets moved, but usually they've known about it for a while. So I'm guessing they've known about making a Teen Titans Go for a long time, although all the indications I'm getting from anything I read about this movie seems like it sort of is coming together very quickly, which probably means they didn't spend a ton on this movie, which is probably best for them. This will actually come out against Mission Impossible 6, I believe. It is kind of surprising. I mean, I know Teen Titans Go is pretty much all that Cartoon Network does now and stuff, but the biggest shock is that they announced it with a date, which pretty much means they're fairly committed to this thing actually coming out. A lot of people seem to think that this like suddenly took over what an Adventure Time movie was going to be, or it took like the slot of an Adventure Time movie, because it did. I think there was a slot they had on their schedule that just was like Warner animated film. I don't think that necessarily was going to be an Adventure Time slot. We have no actual proof that slot was ever going to be an Adventure Time movie release date, or that they ever came up with a date or got close to a date, or even if that movie is still happening. There seems to be this miscommunication when one movie happens and another doesn't, and if it's a movie you liked and that doesn't happen in a movie that does happen in a movie you don't like, that it took away from the other one. That's not really how studio things work. I don't know why people think that. It seems like they want to do a lot of stuff with Teen Titans. They had the DC animated film Teen Titans The Judas Contract, which actually seemed kind of cool, and I haven't seen it or even read if it's good or anything. And next year DC is launching a streaming service with a TV show called Titans, so they seem to have a lot invested in the Teen Titans brand, and it makes sense, particularly after the success of Lego Batman, that they feel like most audiences would be down for this. So Teen Titans Go, if you hadn't got sick of them being on Cartoon Network pretty much all the time, that, you know, they don't occasionally show Gumball by accident or Adult Swim's on, then you can see it in theaters next summer. Another film that got its release date announced was the It Chapter 2, which is going to come out on September 6th, 2009. And normally I wouldn't just blurt out a bunch of release date things, but this is especially cool because most of the time when you have a film that's really successful at a time that's not a summer movie season, they go, hey, but your sequel is coming out in the fucking summer. And I think it's actually pretty cool for Warner Brothers and New Line to be like, nope, we're doing September again. And so it kind of like helps September. At least we have 2 Septembers with like monumental big hits in them, which is a pretty cool thing and actually really good for cinemas in a post summer world. So I'm actually very happy about that. Apparently there is going to be a live action Hollywood remake of Your Name, which is going to be produced by Bad Robot and Paramount Pictures, and even Toho is actually going to be involved. There's some reports that J.J. Abrams might direct this film. If that is true, it doesn't sound like this film would even have a chance of coming out before 2020, and late 2020 I think would be the soonest if he's directing it, because, you know, he's doing episode 9, so I don't think this is gonna come out soon. And actually, you know, to ease you a little bit, because I think like it's a little stupid, this whole remake. They shouldn't be doing it. Everyone who loves Your Name doesn't want this. Mainstream audiences don't want this. The only way they could really sell it is with a named director, which happened before Ghost in the Shell was almost directed by James Cameron, for example. If J.J. Abrams was making Your Name, I actually think it would probably end up making money because he's a big enough of a name, people would go see it. But if they just get a random person and it's produced by Bad Robot, I don't think anyone really gives a shit, and that's including the fans and so forth, regardless of how popular it was. And it is a little ridiculous that a film that couldn't get a decent US release is being sought after by one of the biggest filmmakers in Hollywood. Kind of shows you the problems with anime distribution, at least theatrically. So this kind of connects to a previous J.J. Abrams story I had, maybe it was last week, or it was in the trades and so forth, that Paramount Pictures was actually pretty pissed off at J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot, who they give about $10 million a year to develop projects for Paramount Pictures. They were fine with him doing episode 7 because they're like, well, it's a once in a lifetime thing. So it's cool. You'll come back. And then, you know, it turned out to be a twice in a lifetime thing. And then they were a little like, no, but fuck you guys. Like, why are we doing this? Deal with you. Like, this is a little annoying. Apparently, J.J. Abrams looking for any big project they can develop and get moving forward to kind of show Paramount that it's worth giving them $10 million every year. Part of me thinks, okay, so you know I mentioned in Teen Titans Go that there was a date, which makes me think it will happen. There's no date announced with this. And the idea that we don't have a director, we have a screenwriter, the guy who wrote Arrival, which is promising. But the whole idea of this film sounds to me like he found a property that was a big thing, that would get headlines, that would make Paramount go, oh, and you might direct this after Star Wars. And he's like, sure, maybe. And they're like, hey, good enough for us. I have a strong feeling that this might not happen. I think if it does happen with him, literally the earliest is 2020, like December 2020, but I think honestly it wouldn't come out till 2021 or 2022. So if he is directing it, if anyone else is, maybe it'll come out earlier, but I just don't think that's gonna happen. I think this is a remarkably stupid idea, but if you look at it as an idea of, if you're a major filmmaker who's, you know, has their studio bosses a little pissed off at them and they need to make a kind of high profile deal to kind of smooth things over, this would honestly be sort of maybe the perfect project to do that with. So in that case, I think it works in that vein. It's just not a movie that I actually have any interest in seeing, and I wasn't the biggest fan of Your Name. I just like sort of don't really understand what the point of remaking this would even be, other than brand recognition, which, as we've stated many times before, does not actually work with anime adaptations. So it really doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But maybe J.J. Abrams won't completely fuck it up, or if this even happens, which it probably won't. So there was a new prequel to the Blade Runner 2049 short, this time directed by the director of Cowboy Bebop, called Blade Runner 2022 Blackout. It's probably the best of the three kind of shorts that fill in the gap between the original Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. I actually thought it was really cool. If the link you had for it, that was a YouTube link, doesn't work, it's because apparently Crunchyroll made a copyright claim on it and it's on the Crunchyroll site, or at least it was. It's very confusing where this thing is, but wherever it is, you should check it out. It's actually really cool, and it seems to talk about a major incident that happens in the backstory of Blade Runner 2049. And if anyone is telling you don't see these shorts, they released them. The filmmaker Denis Villeneuve and Ridley Scott and everyone involved wanted these films to come out before Blade Runner 2049, so you should actually watch them before. It seems like they want you to do that, so I think it will enhance the experience. But it's a really cool short. I wish there was a Blade Runner animated movie instead, frankly, but Roger Deakins is shooting it, so I'm fine that we're getting this one, but I mean, if they made another one, I think it'd be cool if this guy actually did it, because I thought he did a really amazing job, and definitely the best of the shorts. If I was going to rank them, I'd say this is the best one, second would be the one with Jared Leto, and the third would be the one with Dave Bautista, which is actually the chronological order as well. So, and I'll have a link of the other two and this one if you want to check those out before going to the theater this coming Friday. Lots of James Cameron news, so let's just get to it. Apparently, Avatar has started production on the 4 sequels, but not really. It's actually just started production on 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are going to shoot simultaneously, and then 4 and 5. It looks like, based on the pictures of kids that came out, the new cast members, and it's going to involve Jake Sully and whoever's the blue lady who Zoe Saldana played. What was her name? It's going to focus on their family, and that all 4 sequels will cost more than $1 billion, which is not as bad when you consider it's 4 movies. That's $250, I guess, per movie, which isn't so bad. But since I think Avatar probably cost around $300 million, this will definitely go over. But they've said in everything it'll be over $1 billion, so I guess it's $500 million for each shoot, I guess. I don't really know if it's worth making all these films, because the first one isn't even supposed to come out until 2020, and then the second one 2021, and then 4 and 5 will come out, I think it's 2024 and 2025, which is good because I already have half of my best of 2020 list already. 4 slots have already been taken by Avatar movie, so that's nice of James Cameron to do that for me. I'm not really excited for these, and I don't know anyone who is, but it's interesting that they're going for more of a family-friendly route, it seems like, probably because kids go to, you know, theme parks, and because kids don't remember hating Avatar. That probably helps too. So more Terminator 6 news and more James Cameron news is that James Cameron and Tim Miller apparently were working on Terminator 6 for a year now, and the whole Tim Miller rumors that have been going on forever were, you know, real, and he was actually working on something, which is sort of interesting. So Joe Cornish, who directed Attack the Block, who's someone who I've been wanting to direct a follow-up for honestly forever, is going to be directing a follow-up. It is going to be called The Kid Who Would Be King, and it's going to star Patrick Stewart and Rebecca Ferguson and a bunch of kids, which sounds interesting. I wish him the best, and I really hope it works out because I love Attack the Block, and it apparently will come out next September, but just says next September. It doesn't have a date attached to it, but apparently it is going to be going into production soon. Phil Lord and Chris Miller finally announced their new project after Han Solo fell apart, and it is going to be an adaptation of an upcoming book, which apparently will come out right in time for Thanksgiving, by Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian. It is going to be called Artemis. It's supposed to be a space caper thing. I wasn't really that into this idea, but when I read the plot description, it was about a guy who's down in his luck, who's trying to make it on this like moon colony type of thing. Actually sounds something like that they could do, and it's supposed to be set on Moon's very first city. It sounds like something that would be cool, and since a lot of people were kind of talking shit about them and if they could really handle a big space production like this, I've read a lot of people saying that they mainly picked this to prove everybody wrong, but it still sounds like kind of a cool movie, and something, if you read the description about this kid who's like down on his luck and is given a chance to this thing, sounds like, you know, Lego Movie or the Jump Street movies and things like that. Sounds sort of in their wheelhouse, so I'm excited for it. I'm curious, but also the thing with The Martian, as the Martian script was really what it was because of Drew Goddard, not because of Andy Weir, so I'm a little curious what they're going to do with it, but maybe it's a good jumping off point to have like witty and fun jokes, so maybe that'll work out for them, much how it worked out for Drew Goddard. Apparently Burger King in Russia is suing it because of Ronald McDonald. Now, I'm not drunk or something like that. It's actually because Burger King in Russia feels that it is giving bonus promotion to Ronald McDonald and McDonald's basically, and it's giving it an unfair advantage, so therefore they're suing the movie It because of that. I don't know if they are aware of what the movie It is and how that doesn't really promote clowns and McDonald's isn't really involved, and it's kind of a whole silly controversy, but it's kind of one of those funny news stories that I can talk about to break up the tension in long movie news show. The teaser for the film Annihilation, which is the film that is going to be directed by the same guy who did Ex Machina, Alex Garland, which is going to star Oscar Isaacs and particularly Natalie Portman and Tessa Thompson, which looks really cool and looks kind of like a cool, weird kind of sci-fi adventure, and something that I'm really down for. I'm not the biggest Ex Machina fan, but it looks really interesting to me, to be honest, so should check that out. There was also a trailer for a film called Anna and the Apocalypse, which played at Fantastic Fest this past weekend, and it's like a zombie British Christmas musical. It looks like one of those things that's maybe like too quirky for its own good, but it looks maybe it could be fine and cool and stuff, or just too quirky for its own good and kind of annoying. You be the judge, but it's sort of interesting, you know. I've never heard of one of them. So if you're wondering why Channing Tatum, who's in like a lot of the marketing for Kingsman 2, was not in it a lot, apparently it was because of script changes and Channing Tatum's schedule, which you think they would have figured out before they like made a movie and shit, but I guess they didn't. It doesn't say like he was working on this so he couldn't do this, or, you know, we went late and he had to do Logan Lucky or something. We actually don't know what the deal was or what he was working on or what was going on. So apparently the part that went to the other guy was supposed to be more him, but it didn't work out and whatever. It's kind of like, okay, Channing Tatum couldn't get his shit together, or they couldn't get their shit together. Anyway, it's just a scheduling thing, and that's why. There was a trailer for Maze Runner: The Death Cure, which, you know, I have to admit, I sort of don't mind the Maze Runner movies. They're really good at doing just kind of fast, propulsive, very much moving YA movies. They're not like the boring, like Hunger Games, Divergent crap that I never really was that into, but Maze Runner, I don't love them. They're kind of like B movies, but they have like such a good, like they're always running, like it never gets boring. It's always like sort of interesting. It works in a kind of like B action movie way where there's always like interesting visuals going on. Like I think starting with the second one gotten even better because they're always moving and going through this world and there's always like something around the corner. The first one was like fine, but they were moving a lot. He was very good at like plotting this out and making like a simple good YA film. I forget the director's name, but he's always been really good at making these films. I think the Maze Runner films will probably live on far better than a lot of the YA stuff currently has, when they'll run a lot because they're running through mazes, although they stopped running through mazes, so it really shouldn't be called that anymore, but whatever. There's a trailer for Amityville The Awakening. It is going to be in theaters at the end of October, but it's actually going to be on Google Play for free earlier in the month. So this movie's been delayed so many times. Bella Thorne is in it, and people are saying like how much younger she is in this trailer because it's been delayed for I remember it was going to come out in 2013. I swear. I don't know. I might actually review this one just because it's free, but there's a trailer for it. It looks kind of a standard horror thing and all that stuff. So Leonardo DiCaprio is going to be in Scorsese's new biopic about Teddy Roosevelt, which I'm assuming they'll get to like eventually. They're working on like another thing, and it seems like they like working together and developing stuff, but I think Leo, because of his conservation background, things like that, would actually be really great as Teddy Roosevelt, and I think he could really pull it off. And Teddy Roosevelt is as close to a comic book character as we've ever had as a president. Like seriously, like read his bio, it's just like this was a real person. Like I almost wish they made a superhero thing out of it, you know, but I think Scorsese and Leo will do a great job with it. The trailer for the Spielberg documentary, which is going to come out on Netflix next weekend, actually, October 7th, came out. It looks really cool. I'm excited for it. I'm definitely going to watch it. It looks like cool, you know, Spielberg kind of stuff. It just kind of shows the movie star thing, but I'm curious what avenues of Spielberg will get, and maybe, you know, what new info we'll get from it, which is always kind of cool. The trailer for Killing of a Sacred Deer, which is the new film from Yorgos Lanthimos, who did Dogtooth and last year's The Lobster, came out. It looks significantly dark and disturbed, and just what I want from Yorgos Lanthimos, and if you know him, probably the thing that you'd want from him too. And supposedly it's pretty brutal of a movie, and from this trailer I definitely get that. There's a trailer for the long in development and actually apparently was shot film called Gotti, which stars John Travolta, and yeah, I'm kind of surprised this movie actually got made. They had press conferences about it. There's one in 2011 that was pretty notorious where it said Lindsay Lohan was going to be in it. This movie's been around forever, but it looks like Travolta actually tried and stuff, so I'm kind of a little interested in this, but not like it looks. The trailer, it's not a great trailer. It doesn't look like it was shot particularly well, but I'm a little interested just because I've been hearing about this fucking thing for like forever, because I think even before the 2011 thing I'd heard about it for a while. It's kind of interesting that this is actually apparently coming out in December. So Sony is still trying to make a Cleopatra movie, which Cleopatra obviously has a pretty notorious history in terms of film adaptations, from Elizabeth Taylor to the Lost Silent film to Claudette Colbert even, but supposedly Sony is looking at Denis Villeneuve after what he has done with Blade Runner 2049 to do Cleopatra. The idea would be, if you don't freak out about Dune, I'm going to explain that. The idea would be that while he works on Dune, he would start developing Cleopatra and do Cleopatra after Dune. We'll see. But almost everyone has said, like, yeah, so don't think he's doing Bond. I didn't think he was going to do Bond. Supposedly, like, Daniel Craig really would like him to do Bond, but I don't think he's doing Bond. There's a trailer for the horror movie Polaroid, which looks kind of like a fun, dumb little horror movie, kind of showing you. I like that Polaroids are ancient cameras now that could be in horror movies, which makes me feel old as shit, so thanks a lot, Polaroid. If you get to the movies early like I do most of the time, you used to this thing called First Look, which is the 20 minutes before the movie starts. It's like commercials and behind the scenes stuff and things like that, and it is going to be replaced by Nuvi, which is a Disney partnership, which will be Disney will be doing this dumb thing that will be before the movies. Before that, it was called the 20, which I think everyone liked that. I remember joking with people. People seem to like that term. Then it became First Look. Now it's going to be Nuvi, and it's gonna start around the time of Coco. So if you really want to, you know, remember First Look, go to the theater soon, and then New V is going to take over, and then I'm sure in a couple years something else will take over. But it sounds like Disney's actually going to be presenting these things, which I kind of don't love because it's like a major studio doing it, and they obviously already have enough of an upper hand, but I guess they needed more of one. I don't know. And finally, I'm going to again feature the Oscar Futures column, which is going to talk about the Oscar chances of Blade Runner 2049, which seems a lot higher than we thought they would, and even gets into what's been happening at the various film festivals and how that has affected other films' Oscar chances as well. So that was Movie Crap. I've had a bunch of videos since last time. The August to Labor Day video, which I talked about, was on my Patreon exclusively before, but now is available for everyone. Check that out. I have reviews of Kingsman: The Golden Circle, Moonshine, which is a Fatty Arbuckle Buster Keaton short, part of my Buster Keaton series, the 1988 stop-motion classic of Alice, which I have a review of, a review of Diamond Jim, which was a legacy pick from my Patreon movie review vote, a review of the Lego Ninjago movie, and yes, I will probably have a movie review vote video out the day after this. Thank you all very much for watching and being cool. If you would like to talk about any of the movie news, articles, or whichever, talk about it below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to.